Story time of my crazy stalker ex-boyfriend. By the way, we're calling him Michael. So me and Michael started talking in the middle of my senior year in high school. I met him at a friend's party and he seemed pretty cool. He was very affectionate. He would take me out all the time. He introduced me to his family. He said he loved me within the first week. He wanted all of my time and he seemed so perfect. Until suddenly, he started to get very controlling. He never wanted me to go out anywhere. He didn't like the clothes that I wear. He didn't like any of my friends. He made me feel guilty whenever I tried to do something for myself. After months of dealing with this controlling behavior, I wanted to leave the relationship. He got mad at me. He was threatening to hurt me and himself if I left. I told him I was done. The next day, like any old regular day, I go to school and I come back home. But when I came back home, I open up my door and I see Michael sitting on my couch with a taser. I'll be back for part 2. This is part 2 story time of my crazy stalker ex-boyfriend. So like I said before, I get home and Michael is sitting on my couch with a taser. I ask him, "What are you doing here? And how did you get in?" He's like, "Your mom let me in. I told her you asked for help for homework." I yell and call for my mom, and he's like, "Oh, she left. She said she was going to the grocery store real quick." I turn around and try to leave out the house. He runs and shuts the door. And he's like, "Oh, baby, please don't go. Listen, I heard you earlier, and I'm sorry for being so controlling. I just love you so much, and I don't want anything to happen to you." I asked him, "Why did you pop up, and why did you bring a taser?" He said, "I just wanted to surprise you." And I'm like, "For what?" He goes into his pocket and pulls out a ring saying he wanted to get engaged, trying to hand me a ring that looked like he got out of a gumball machine. I laugh at him and he pushes me against the door. It gets real scary after this. Y'all let me know if y'all want a part 3. This is part 3 story time of my crazy stalker ex-boyfriend. So like I said before, he popped up at my house with a taser. He told me he wanted to get engaged, and basically if I didn't say yes, he was going to hurt me. So for the time being, I pretended like everything was okay, and I told him yes, even though the idea of it disgusted me. He told me he wanted to go on a getaway trip and that I should pack my bags. I was like, "I have school tomorrow." And he said, "You can miss one day of school for your man." I told him no, and he grabbed my arm, telling me to go get my stuff. I went upstairs immediately. And when I got to my room, I tried to call the cops, and I guess he overheard me because he busted into my room, starting to fight me. I don't know how, but we ended up in the hallway, and he fell down the stairs. He became unconscious, and at that moment, I ran out of the house, and I called the cops again, but about an intruder. He ended up waking back up and was arrested, but that wasn't just it. A couple years later, he came around stalking me at school, my job, even my friends and family.
Story time about how I found out my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend was spying on us in the bedroom. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. My boyfriend and I have been together for 1 year. Our relationship is really good. We're like best friends and we tell each other everything. He always wants to spend time with me and we're planning on moving in together. Our families love each other and they're looking forward to us getting married someday. I'll call my boyfriend Dan. When Dan and I started dating, he told me that he had a really crazy ex. He was extremely controlling and didn't let him hang out with his friends or even his family. And when he broke up with her, she went nuts. She actually told her family that he was abusive just to get back at him. When we got together, Dan told me that he was scared his ex might try to do something to us. I told him not to worry, that she wouldn't do anything at all. Boy, was I wrong. Dan had his own apartment and I would stay at his place most nights. And of course, we did stuff in his bedroom. One night that we're on his bed doing stuff, I see a little tiny lens on his bookshelf pointing straight to us. I hadn't noticed it before, so I asked him what it was. He said he didn't know, so he went to it and pulled it out. It was a tiny little camera. Part 2 is up. When my boyfriend and I are doing the dirty on his bed, I notice there's a little lens pointing straight at us. He goes to grab it and we realize it's a little camera. The whole time we've been doing stuff on his bed, it's been recording us. That's when my boyfriend Dan said that it must have been his crazy ex. Let's call her Casey. He had told me that she was really crazy, but I didn't think she was that crazy. Dan starts looking throughout his whole apartment and he finds 2 more little cameras. One in the kitchen and one in the bathroom. As you can imagine, we didn't sleep that entire night. Of course, we went to the police and they opened an investigation, but they said they couldn't find anything. A week later, I get a DM from Casey, his ex-girlfriend. She starts abusing me through DM, calling me a bunch of names. She even said that I stole Dan from her, but I hadn't even met Dan when they broke up. Then she sends me a picture of my house, which means she knows where I live. I go straight to my boyfriend's apartment, and when I open the door, guess who's there? Casey is sitting on the couch with my boyfriend. It gets scarier. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend's crazy ex is sitting on the couch, and I'm terrified. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. She had just finished sending me a bunch of DMs on Instagram, totally abusing me. But my boyfriend didn't know this. I walk into the apartment and they're both sitting on the couch. She turns around and asks him, "Is that her?" My boyfriend looks at me with a serious face and says, "Yes, that's her." Then she shows me DMs on Instagram that I had supposedly sent to some guy, and that she passed herself off as this guy to see if I would fall. And the messages were so dirty and disgusting. I tell my boyfriend that's not me and that I would never do that to him. He just stares at me and doesn't say anything. That's when I try to show him all of the DMs that she had just sent me. But I noticed they were all gone. She actually unsent every single DM. Now I had no proof and it was just her word against mine. That's when I accused her of planting the cameras in our bedroom. She actually smiled at me and turned around and told my boyfriend she would never do that. Then she slapped me. My boyfriend's crazy ex slaps me and lunges at me. Of course, I start attacking her right back. My boyfriend separates us finally and asks both of us to leave his apartment. I was so crushed that he didn't believe me. So far, she had spied on us in bed, hacked my Instagram to send DMs to herself to make it look like I was talking to another guy, and threatened me by telling me that she knew where I lived. Oh yeah, and she physically attacked me too. I left my boyfriend's apartment and a few days later he comes looking for me. I explained everything to him and he said he had no choice but to believe me. His ex was too crazy. Then he told me that she went back to his apartment that night and picked his lock. She got naked and crawled into his bed. He woke up, kicked her out, and went straight to get a restraining order. He scanned his apartment for more cameras and found 2 more. What should we do?
This is a story time of why I don't eat at other people's house no more. Me and my best friend, we were like 11 or 12 at the time, and we were having a sleepover at her house. We had hung out outside of school many times before. This would just be the first time I went over to her house. My mom drops me off and just lets me walk inside. When I went up to the door, my best friend answered and she was like, "Hey, can you grab a shoe?" Immediately, I could tell that the house wasn't very clean, but I knew it wasn't her fault. It's not because she asked me to grab a shoe. I could see behind her and could tell that the house was just really messy. It really did look like an episode of Hoarders, but I grabbed a shoe and I helped her look for that fly. So it was me, my bestie, and her grandma looking for this big ass bug. We got a little tired, so we sat down to eat something and her grandma made us a snack. I was a little scared to eat, not gonna lie, but I didn't want to make my best friend feel bad, so I went ahead and ate my food. Well, I was only able to eat some of it because we had left the basement door open and we saw the bug fly down there. So we stopped eating, ran down to the basement, and we saw the bug fly behind this box. We moved this box, and I swear 100 families of spiders and their ancestors started spewing out, like for part 2. This is going to be part 2 of why I don't eat at other people's house no more. Like I said, so many spiders started spewing out from behind this box. I genuinely thought that these spiders were going to eat all of us alive. It was not a fun situation. We did not run fast enough. These spiders started crawling all over us. I think I saw a lighter somewhere and considered setting myself on fire. I want you guys to imagine like my whole entire body covered up with spiders. That's what it felt like, but there was only like 5 or 6 on me. The grandma gets a blanket and starts whipping us with it. She's like trying to dust the spiders off. I see my best friend start stripping. I was a little about that, but I was like, fuck it. Anything to get these spiders off. Once we felt like we were good, we ran upstairs. My best friend started crying to me and apologizing and saying how much she hates her life and how she's so embarrassed. But I told her that all is good and this doesn't change the way that I see her at all. We have our little moment and then we sit down to eat again. And you know, I'm going in on my little SpaghettiOs. But all of a sudden, it starts getting crunchy. I ignore it and I get down to the bottom of the bowl. When I look down, there is a half-eaten spider in the bottom of the bowl, like for part 3. This is going to be part 3 of why I don't eat at other people's house anymore. So like I said, I was munching and grunching on some SpaghettiOs. It's getting crunchy and I'm like, what's this crunch? Where's all this crunch coming from? I was like, bruh, it's probably some expired SpaghettiOs, but let me finish this bowl so my friend don't feel bad. When I got to the end and there was only some soup left, I saw a half-eaten spider. The same spiders that we had seen downstairs. My body? It started vibrating. I was shaking. I seized out. I think I passed out. This was not a good situation. I did have a phobia of spiders. I told my best friend, listen, babes, I love you. You know I love you. But this cannot go on no longer. I'm gonna have to go home. I felt like such a terrible friend, but I did call my mom. And she came to get me and she took me home. I told her what happened and she was upset with my friend's grandma. From then on, we only had sleepovers at my house. And ever since my family found out about her living situation, we would go over there sometimes to help them clean. We would bring food and games. I'm grown now, but me and this girl ended up falling out because of some drama.
Story time. My dad got my half-brother's girlfriend pregnant. A little background information. This all happened a few years ago. Anyways, my brother was fresh out of high school and he had been dating this girl named Serena for 2 years. And my dad, for some reason, hated her. At least that's what we thought. Well, my brother didn't have a license at the time, so every time that she came over, she needed somebody to drop her off at home. So my dad would always offer to drop her off at home, even though he literally hated her. And he could have just ordered her an Uber, which is what he did with all of my friends. Well, the one night her parents called and they were like, hey, like, is Serena still there? She hasn't came home yet. And my dad said that he was dropping her off. So I called my dad and he said that they ran out of gas on the side of the road. So that was just like one incident. Well, the next morning my mom goes to get in the car for work and she finds a thong in the car. So she brings it in the house and she asks me, hey, is this yours? Meanwhile, I had never seen them before. So then she goes and asks my half-brother and my dad's whose they are, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my dad got my half-brother's girlfriend pregnant. So like I said, my mom found that thong in the car. She came and asked me if it was mine. I said no. So then she asked my dad and my brother whose they were. So she asked my dad first. He said, I don't know whose they are. He said they probably just fell out of Serena's bag. And then she asked my brother. And my brother said, oh, those are Serena's. So after that, my brother came in my room. And he was like, do you think it's weird that the same underwear that Serena was wearing before she left ended up in the car? So I guess she had the underwear on literally before she fucking left the house. Dumb bitch alert. Anyway, so a few weeks later, Serena breaks up with my brother. Well, around the same time, my dad started staying after work really late, like every day of the week. But long story short, my mom went through his phone because she felt like something was going on, and she reads a conversation between my dad and Serena. Like, oh, I'm so sad that you couldn't come to the ultrasound. So then my mom and him divorced, and he's currently raising his child with Serena.
Story time on how my boyfriend leaked my nudes to my entire school. You heard that right. So I was 15 at the time in the 9th grade and he was 18 in the 12th grade. He was very popular and well known. Even the teachers liked him. And every girl wanted to be with him or get his attention. It was my first year in high school, so I of course fell for that stupid popular guy thing. He was kind of known for being a player and messing with a lot of girls. And yeah, that's a red flag, but we don't see red flags in high school. Well, he seen me in lunch one day and came over to talk to me. All I could do was blush and feel kind of special because here I have the most popular guy in school giving me attention. We started texting and talking on the phone every night. And I even got a little popular myself. Literally only after a month of us talking, one night he asked me to send him a picture. And that's when I make the biggest mistake of my life. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend leaked my nudes to my entire school. So like I said, only after a month of us talking, one night he asked me to send him a picture. Me being innocent minded, I sent him a picture of me fully clothed. Once he got it, he laughed and said, no baby, send me something sexy. Show me what you got underneath. My heart immediately dropped. I knew I shouldn't, but he was the popular guy. How could I say no? I trust him, right? He's probably used to this with other girls. I didn't want him to see me as a loser. I just wanted him to like me. Fuck it, I'll do it. I locked my door and took a picture of everything. Yes, everything. Including my cat with my face in it. I sent it and immediately regretted it. There was just something in me that knew I shouldn't, but I just didn't listen to myself. Well, I was right because the very next day was the worst day of my life. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how my boyfriend leaked my nudes to my entire school. So like I said, even though I didn't want to do it, I did it and sent him the picture. He told me how beautiful I was and how much he couldn't wait to see me tomorrow. Maybe I was wrong. Well, that wasn't the case because literally the next day, not even a week later, the next day, while I was walking to my classes, people would be staring, laughing, snickering. I immediately knew what happened and my friends came and confirmed it. I tried calling and texting him and he wouldn't respond. He was such an asshole. And if I seen him, he would act like he didn't know me. It became so big, my parents got involved. So grateful for my parents and how they had my back. They moved me to another school and pressed charges. He ended up getting in big trouble with the authorities. And all my pictures was taken down on his socials and anywhere they were. And now I'm in my new school with none of that drama. But if you take anything away from this, ladies, don't do it.